This is the legendary Toyota Camry capable of driving hundreds of thousands of miles without major repairs. And this is the premium Mercedes E-Class whose diesel engine, with proper maintenance, easily covers hundreds of thousands of miles. In this video, I'll tell you about the most reliable cars in the modern market. Enjoy watching! At the beginning of the video, it's important to clarify who and how compiles the car reliability ratings. The thing is, different countries have their own lists. For example, the Toyota Camry is not exported to European countries, so it simply doesn't appear in the ratings there. Take, for instance, the Technical Inspection Association in Germany. This organization conducts car inspections and their reliability research is considered one of the most objective. This is because they use reports from technical inspectors who were considered completely incorruptible. Naturally, an unimaginable number of cars undergo inspection annually, on average tens of millions. The organization compiles its reports on year reliability in 5 different age categories: 2 to 3 years, 4 to 5 years, 6 to 7 years, 8 to 9 years, and 10 to 11 years. In each of these categories, a ranking of the toughest cars is compiled, including about 100 models. The association calculates the percentage of defective cars, taking into account their mileage. The statistics include models that have been inspected at least 500 times. As a result, the ratings compiled by the organization are the most objective for Europe. But not only the Technical Inspection Association compiles lists of reliable cars. In Germany, half of the cars are checked by the association and the other half by DEKRA. Ideally, the ratings of these organizations should match. But in reality, DEKRA doesn't compile rankings of cars among different age categories. They name the 10 most reliable cars of the year among 9 classes. It might seem that such a rating is worse than the association's, but it's not. DEKRA has 2 main advantages. They inspect about 1.5 times more cars, which provides a broader sample and more reliable statistics. Also, DEKRA gives a brief conclusion for each model. They point out where and what cars have weak spots in terms of reliability and which components and units fail most often. In England, the approach is slightly different. The organization Warranty Direct uses information from insurance companies for its ratings. Their database contains over 50,000 policies. They conduct a detailed analysis of the insurance payouts made. In the Warranty Direct rating, the reliability index for each model of car brands is calculated. There's also an interesting feature in this tab. It lists the average cost of repairs. Most importantly, the rating is regularly updated, so at any time you can get fairly reliable information about the 100 best car models in the last 12 months. It's also worth mentioning the American car valuation system. They are considered the least reliable. This is because they compile their ratings based on surveys of car owners. Needless to say, such an approach allows for corruption and bribery in the reports. Still, it's necessary to use these ratings because the more sources of information you have, the easier it is to choose the most reliable car. Well, now that we have figured out where and how to find information about cars, it's time to move on to the list I've prepared especially for you. Japanese make things, Germans make cars. A typical phrase in a debate among fans of different car manufacturers. However, the fact that Japanese cars are very reliable is undeniable. Probably, it's all because these cars are maximally simple. They have little electronics which often fail, their engines are simple and unburdened, and their transmissions have a huge margin of safety. Therefore, Japanese cars are so reliable. True, owners of these cars often sacrifice driving comfort and fuel consumption. Progressive German car engines require far less gasoline, and there are many more conveniences inside the cabin. This is what gives rise to all these disputes about which car is cooler. But let's not stray away from the topic. Right now, I'll tell you about the most reliable Japanese cars. According to various ratings of the most reliable cars, wherever the Toyota Camry participates, you don't even need to look at the first place. This car is always at the top. This model has quite a few generations and restylings, but I'll tell you about those that can be bought new or used and still do not require serious maintenance. The oldest Camry you can find in good condition will be from the 5th generation. These cars were produced from 2001 to 2004. Just imagine, these cars can be over 20 years old, but they still serve their owners faithfully. The main components of these cars are so reliable that with regular maintenance, they have almost not lost their qualities. Some models have managed to cover hundreds of thousands of miles without serious intervention. True, such ancient cars often have body problems. All car enthusiasts know that the Japanese are not famous for the durability of their paintwork. So, if anti-corrosion treatment of the car was not carried out at the time of purchase, its structural parts could have just rotted away. And with poor maintenance of the units, even with all their reliability, they could still fail after 20 years. When the car was just released, it cost about $30,000 in the market. Relatively live specimens can be now purchased for $10,000 to $12,000, and that's after 20 years. Newer generations did not bring significant changes to the car's components, so they continued to be just as reliable. Cars of the 6th generation initially cost about $47,000. Now, such cars in the secondary market cost an average of $15,000 to $20,000. The 7th generation asked for an average of $50,000 to $60,000, and nowadays it can be bought for $20,000 to $30,000, depending on the condition. It is surprising that the newest generations cost the same $50,000 to $60,000. However, it will not be possible to buy them cheaper due to the secondary market, as these are the newest cars that have not yet been in use. It is also worth noting that little is known about their reliability, but I don't think it will be significantly different from the cars of the previous generation. Suzuki cars are also known for their special reliability. However, unlike the Toyota Camry, these cars are much simpler and aimed at less affluent people. These vehicles are so rudimentary and straightforward in their design and cheap to maintain that they have earned immense popularity worldwide. Take, for instance, the already legendary Suzuki Swift, a small hatchback with a weak engine featuring the simplest materials inside and only the necessary gadgets. But did you know that the 3rd generation cars can be nearly 20 years old? Such specimens in the secondary market can be bought for just $3,000 to $5,000. They'll be in the simplest configurations, not in the best conditions, but most amazingly, still running smoothly. These cars, having colossal mileages, can drive just as much more without any special intervention. All this car requires is to have car oil instead of sunflower oil and gasoline instead of animal excrements. And that's it, this car will run. Probably this is why Suzuki has gained such huge popularity. By the way, new cars are not that expensive. You can get a Swift from the dealership for an average of $15,000 to $20,000, and most importantly for this money, will serve faithfully for decades. Suzuki also has other reliable models. For example, the famous Jimny. This small SUV is simply astonishing in its off-road capability and reliability. It's still possible to find a live 20-year-old car in the secondary market, and new models are in huge demand. It's all about the design of the latest Jimny, which strongly resembles the famous Mercedes G-Wagon. The components of this car are just as reliable as other Suzukis. However, the cost of a new Jimny is high due to demand. For the most budget configuration, you have to pay about $20,000, while for the higher models, around $30,000. And one more car from this manufacturer worth mentioning is the Suzuki SX4. Essentially, it's the same as Swift, just a bit bigger. The reliability is just as immense. A new car at the time asked for about $20,000 to $30,000, and in the secondary market, you can find worthy specimens around $10,000. And what other extremely reliable Japanese business sedans are there? Of course, the Honda Accord. True, this car is not as popular as the Camry, but it still has a huge fan base. A new one costs around $40,000 to $50,000, and ancient 15 to 20-year-old live specimens in the secondary market are valued at around $10,000. Another representative of the Japanese brand is the Honda Jazz. It's a small and simple hatchback with simple components. It consumes little gasoline, requires almost no maintenance, and the engine and transmission are practically indestructible. Hundreds of thousands of miles are not a problem for Jazz. I wouldn't be surprised if there are million-mile specimens that almost never required a mechanic's intervention. A new one can be bought for $20,000 to $30,000, and in the secondary market, there are specimens for just $2,000 to $3,000. However, I don't think those particular cars will be live ones. It's better to pay a bit more for a car in good condition. Overall, Honda is a great choice for young people. Cars of this brand are not only reliable, but also have a very aggressive and attractive design. If you're choosing a car for yourself or your growing son, consider Honda. But what about European cars? It's time to talk about the reliability of European autos. But before that, I'd like to make a small disclaimer. The fact is that every manufacturer has reliable models, but I physically can't tell you about all of them in the scope of one video. Therefore, I'll mostly be looking at German cars. And if you want me to look at other cars, then write your favorite brand in the comments. Nowadays, you can often hear that the Germans make completely unreliable cars that fall apart after a year. Indeed, prestigious brand cars have started breaking down more frequently, but there is an explanation for this. They feature many sophisticated systems and gadgets. The more complications in a car's design, the more often it can break down. Take, for example, the engines of modern Germans. Most of them are turbocharged with complex fuel systems, lots of sensors, and various other gadgets. Naturally, they fail more often, but only for minor issues. Major repairs are needed only by outright unreliable cars. Take BMW, for example. The famous Bavarian car manufacturer was renowned for its reliability from the 80s to the 90s. Back then, legendary models like the E30, E39, and E21 were released, and they were all pretty simple. They didn't have turbocharged engines, complex transmissions, or a lot of electronics in the cabin. Only the essentials were there. That's why if they were reliable, there wasn't much to break. In our time, there are models that can travel hundreds of thousands of miles without major repairs. Take, for example, the Penny, BMW's first series. These are the simplest cars, with unburdened engines, reliable transmissions, and most importantly, few frills. Small cars. This category is always famous for its reliability and low cost. You can buy a new Penny for $30,000 to $40,000, and in the secondary market, old but mainly live specimens which are already 10 to 15 years old are valued at an average of $8,000 to $10,000. However, Germans are more finicky about maintenance, so you should seriously approach the process of selecting such a car. More expensive cars of this brand are not known for their reliability, but for example, a 3 or 5 sedan with diesel engines can cover a significant distance with proper maintenance without serious intervention by technicians. However, diesels are much more expensive. Everyone wants to travel comfortably in their beautiful car. A new will cost $50,000 to $70,000. Admittedly, that's quite a lot, but in the secondary market, their price is already lower. On average, a 10-year-old diesel is asked for between $12,000 to $20,000, but my advice to you is not to buy a car on the secondary market. Even the most reliable German diesel can quickly break down with poor maintenance. I also couldn't fail to mention arguably BMW's main competitor, Mercedes-Benz. These cars are very beautiful, however, they don't particularly shine in terms of reliability. Typically, the most durable ones are usually the simplest variants. For example, the B-Class, small hatchbacks with simple engines. Their cost is not high. A new one is asked for an average of about $20,000 to $25,000, and in the secondary market for 10-year-old cars, it's about $5,000 to $10,000. The reliability of these vehicles is very high. There are individual cars that have driven almost 1,000,000 miles without repair. Just amazing! It's much more interesting to consider the more expensive models. For instance, the C-Class. These are entry-level business sedans. They're comfortable, compact, and quite practical. However, only certain powertrains can boast reliability, and that too with good maintenance. The cost of these cars is not high. The cheapest models can be found for $30,000, but the most expensive models like the Sport AMG versions can cost up to $80,000. Cars with reliable components can travel hundreds of thousands of miles, but the less good specimens can break down quite quickly. The E-Class has the same problem. Diesel engines are mostly reliable, but other components are not as practical. However, these cars are very comfortable. Not for nothing, in this segment of cars called business sedans, it is strongly not recommended to buy cars older than 10 years in the secondary market, especially the petrol versions. New cars cost around $50,000, while in the secondary market, the price is much lower, around $10,000 to $15,000. With proper maintenance, such cars can travel around 100,000 to 150,000 miles without major repairs. These were some of the most reliable cars on the market. Thank you for watching.